Well, at the beginning of our reflection, I'm going to ask you to turn to your bowl of water one more time, and this time invite you to scoop up a little water from the bowl. Just let it dribble through your fingers. And pay attention. Pay attention to the wetness. Pay attention to the way water soaks and runs and drips. And think of being soaked in the Spirit of God. Or think of the Spirit of God as water reaching a parched throat. Think of the story of salvation teeming around us. Think of parables whispered in the drenching. And baptism becomes the soothing rush of heaven and heaven's promise of Jesus. Well, do you find that at all a kind of praying? Prayer has the many forms. One kind, of course, is the urgent pleading, when our spirit yearns for help that only God can give. Another kind is when we seek a connection with God. In the Jewish tradition, prayer is often like that. The Hebrew word for prayer is not levakesh, to request, but tefillah, to connect. The ladder that Jacob saw in his dream with angels going up and coming down on it is a symbol of prayer, connecting earth and heaven. So in the Jewish mindset, the essence of prayer is about linking creator and creation. The early church in Britain and Ireland would be puzzled with our modern day quest to become eco-friendly in our prayers. In their minds, considering creation was not a separate issue. To talk of the environment as an isolated concept would have been strange. Everything was connected in Christ. Creation itself had a blessedness about it. And rather than try to change our prayer this Sunday by adding bolt-on references about the environment, we've been trying to revisit the roots of prayer, where creator and creation become connected mysteriously in our midst. With our bowls of water, we've tried to create space, we've tried to take time, and of course, this is what poets often try to do, create space and take time. William Butler Yeats was born into a Church of Ireland family, and though he may have drifted from those moorings, still his poetry remained intensely spiritual. And one of his best-known poems, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, is of course rich in references to nature, and Richard is going to read it for us.
I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always, night and day, I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While standing on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core.
I hear it in the deep heart's core. The deep heart's core has connections and memories of sight and sound and taste and smell. And at harvest and creation tide, we do well to invoke some of these, to remind ourselves of how deeply We are in God's creation, just as we are God's creation, made in the image of a creator God. And before Frank leads us in intercessions, I want to invite you to look again at the harvest screen that Ali compiled, and we'll try to spotlight it for you. And I'll add a soundtrack, if the technology allows, a little Bob Dylan from his 1970 album New Morning, and a track Father of Night. I mentioned Jewish prayer earlier, and here Dylan's Jewish roots are evident, for it is a prayer based on the ancient Jewish liturgy, the Amidah, or standing prayer.